Today we are going to look at the research topic. I again want to introduce myself, Konanani Korombi. Today, when I prepared for the topic that we're going to look at, that is the selection of the research topic, I consulted two sources. It is Gay and colleagues, and I think in some topics we did use this source, but today I added there is Creswell and Creswell 2018. I think it's father and son. Their book is on research design, qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods approaches. So everything that I'm going to say is not from me necessarily. I will present what they say and we critically look at that. And by the way, I don't only present things that I like. I present things that come from those sources that I've said. And I critically look at them. If they make sense, I go with them. If they don't make sense, when I do my own writing and when I do my own argument, I will make it very, very clear. In this presentation or this workshop, I have also tried, particularly towards the end of the session, I've also tried to bring in examples of some research work that I've done. Not a lot of it, but very, very basic, to try and illustrate some of the concepts that we'll be dealing with. So, colleagues, as I've said earlier on, you can use any other book. The books that I've presented here are just examples, and they are not the only ones that are correct or that have written about the subjects. You would even see that Creswell and Creswell is very old, it's 2018. So I will present guidelines. Anybody has got a choice to either go with what I present or they can take other decisions. And I've advised in the past that when you do your own writings and you go with a specific position, you must be able to defend that. And the way of defending it is to study literature. Literature will need to support the statements that we put there. We cannot and we are not allowed scientifically to put sweeping statements that are not supported by anybody. The only time where you can write things that do not have sources is when you are reporting results from your respondents. By the way, your respondents are sources. So, but you cannot write, even if you are an authority, you cannot write when you are presenting your research report, some sweeping statements that are not supported by literature, then they will be discarded and be thrown away, or you would be challenged. But if you write statements and you take a position and you indicate that source number 4 or Creswell and Creswell or Gay and colleagues do support this, then your professors, your external examiners, your study leaders are all going to support you, and it will be easy to complete the studies. The learning outcomes for today's workshop is that we should be able, after this workshop, to describe the importance of developing a good research topic. The third outcome is that we should be able to develop qualitative research questions. And this is mainly because our workshop is going to focus on identifying the research topic, sources of the research topics, narrowing the research topic, characteristics of a good research topic or good research topics, stating the research topic, developing research questions, placement and nature of topic statement in a study. This last one is a tautology, is a repetition, sorry, my apologies. The qualitative research questions, we've already indicated that we'll develop them. So that is what we expect to go through today. I'm going to go into the introduction. Colleagues, you will remember that on Tuesday, we were addressing the final aspects of workshops on literature review. And when we touched on literature review, I might have stated that immediately you identify your research topic, that is the beginning of the literature review, because you must study, you must review literature based on the selected research topic. So in other words, this workshop should have preceded the 2 previous workshops on literature review. I think I made an error by bringing it here, because you only do literature review after you have identified a research topic. But something that is good about research is that it is a reiterative process. You can identify a research topic at the beginning of the study, but as you continue, you do literature review, you start going to the field to collect data, or you implement the research project. You can still revisit the research topic. I think we have said that several times. So it means whether I'm talking about a research topic today or I spoke about it before the previous 2 workshops, we will still be able to integrate the two to make sense of what each of the workshops was meant to say, to make us understand. Okay. Now, selecting and defining a research topic is the first step in applying the scientific method. Oh, I repeated myself in that statement. But before you read more about this first step, a few comments about the research process seem appropriate. These are: textbooks tend to present the research process and its steps in a simple linear form. Do this and then this and then this, and ultimately you'd get to where you want to be. And exactly, I've said to you, although I thought I should have presented this before the 2 workshops, it doesn't matter in research, because research is not linear. It goes to and fro. So whether we start from the tail or we start with the head, we will be forced to actually address all aspects of the research, as long as those stages that are logically following each other can be put in that logic. And when we write, you will see that it indicates you started with a research topic, statement of problem, study background, statement of problem, your purpose statement, you go down your research questions or objectives until you go down to the research methodology down there. So that logic is there, and we would be guided when we write all these chapters in terms of the guidelines that the universities and our departments provide to us. Although a linear format provides a necessary template for the student learning, the reality of research is that progress is seldom so straightforward. So haphazard, up and down, to and fro. That is how research is. Upside down, the head down, legs up. It will reproduce the research. Research is truly a process of trial and error, because I write something now and I move 500 miles ahead, then I discover something. Oh, the way I have worded my research questions in chapter 1, now I'm in chapter 4, I'm collecting data or interpreting data. The way I have worded my research questions was not correct, because the findings are actually directing me towards a specific direction. And in terms of the inductive approach of qualitative research, you don't finalize anything upfront. Your research process is emergent in nature, and it progressively assists you to realize the research objectives. So you can only say you have finished everything, every section of the research project at the end of the studies. And this is the reason why, researchers, and this is the reason why you cannot write an introduction at the beginning of the study. I think all of you are conversant with that. You can only write the introduction as the last one. Imagine you also have conclusion. You conclude and go back and introduce. And that is how research is. This is what we're told here, a trial and error strategy of writing, of conducting research. As you investigate and refine a research topic, for instance, you will find things that don't fit as expected, ideas that are not as clear on paper as they were in your head or in our minds, and others that require considerable rethinking and rewriting. And here, the red is me. It's no longer Creswell or Gay. It's me. I'm thinking is different from writing. You cannot write. You cannot be verbatim in the way that you think. You go and produce that. And talking is different from writing as well. So we are told here, we can think that we're going to research the role of vendor culture in nature conservation. But the way we were thinking about it, when you put a pen down, you'll find that, oh, you start to have questions. Am I writing it correctly? Or you start struggling to put ideas together. Even the research topic, I want to research about the culture of the Bavenda and their role in nature conservation. By putting that one as a heading, as a topic, you find that it's not as easy as it comes into your head. You must remember, when we think, it facilitates our discussion. Sorry. When we think, you can talk while you're thinking, but your thinking is faster than writing. I think all of us know about this. You cannot think and then finish all the thinking in a minute, because you will be in a second be thinking about 100 words quickly. You can't write them down immediately. So we as researchers then are cautioned that we must be aware of this. And this is the reality of research. However, your ability to work through these challenges is an important and satisfying measure of your understanding. Remember this as you embark on this learning experience. Just an advice. But the research topic, colleagues, is also referred to as the research problem or the research purpose. Then it provides focus and structure for the remaining steps in the scientific method. And I have got another workshop that is coming on store for us. And it talks about alignment in the research project. That one actually assists us and shows us how we can ensure that everything is aligned. And I'm saying this because in this statement, we are told that every section of the research project or the research process has to give effect to the research topic. Otherwise, the section is out of context. So later on in the slides, we will be able to identify some important sections where the research topic is given effect. And those, I think I would recommend that we go back when in practice, so that where we come across these sections, let's ensure that indeed we have given effect to the research topic, because it would be crucial for us to actually accomplish our research projects. The research topic is the thread that binds everything together, because anything is done in order to answer or to achieve, you're actually to give effect to the research topic. All your questions, all your research objectives, they assist you to give effect. You answer questions that are related to the research topic. And those questions are formulated. We will be able to see it today. They are formulated because they are an element of the research topic. So they are a journey towards actually giving effect to the research topic. Selecting and defining a topic should entail considerable thought. An initial topic that is broad and complex often proves unmanageable for study, and the researcher must narrow its scope to implement or complete the study. When properly defined, the research topic reduces a study to a manageable size. I want you to note something here. Later on, we are going to come across a concept that recommends that the statement of a qualitative research topic is not the same as stating or writing a quantitative research topic. In qualitative research, someone can write a provisional topic, and as he goes, refinement becomes simple. And in terms of the quantitative researchers, in most cases, you find that what they state up front and at the beginning sometimes appears to be rigid, and they belong to the positivist paradigm. So later on, we would come across a recommendation that sometimes we can put our research topics, we can identify a broad area of research when we start. But as we continue, we have an opportunity to zoom it down and make it, we zoom it down, we actually specify the research topic. Okay, the narrowing of the research topic will be explained further in next slides. But it is important to make sure that the topic that we have is manageable. The topic should not be very, very broad. Otherwise, we won't be able to correct sufficient, we won't be able to handle the data that we will collect, we won't be able to finish the study that we are conducting, because we cannot research the entire world. We cannot even research the entire South Africa. We can't even research the entire province. So narrowing the topic is very, very good. One can argue, I can research the world, I can research the province. But when you do that, you delimit the scope in terms of the variables, sorry, in terms of the aspects that you investigate. That we'll talk about a little bit later on. The research topic that you ultimately select is the topic you will work within succeeding chapters of this text. Therefore, it is important that you select a problem relevant to your area of study and the particular interest to you. And we are aware that we've got specific disciplines, and the topic will always be in that specific discipline for which one is registered. So we want to fulfill the requirement of a specific study area. But over and above that, at this level, particularly at postgraduate level, colleagues, you don't study for the sake of studying, for the sake of completing a qualification. We are grown-ups. That is why the reason particularly why we have these workshops after hours, 5:30 now, is because we can cater for the needs of the people who are at work, the people who have got pressing needs during the official hours. So you have got interest in life, and your interests are not only at your employment, they are over and above that. They are a totality of your life. You've got higher goals in life. Those are the ones that define your interest in the study. And therefore, if you select a topic, this is my personal advice. Why does it not contribute to my broader goals rather than contributing to what I would only achieve this year if I pass my M or my D? It might be that if I pass my D, I actually would get promoted at work because it is one of the requirements as a lecturer or a professor or a person who is teaching. But my interest is not only my job, it's my life in totality. Am I a facilitator? Am I a teacher by nature? Can I teach if I'm not employed? Can I facilitate processes of learning? So that is how topics are researched, in my view.
Yeah, Doc, I don't know where I was taught this, but somewhere during my academic life, I was taught that when one identifies a research topic, the first step is to go on the university's completed M's or D's and see if the topic was done before. Has that fallen off, way off, or is it still the way to go? Thanks.
My take on the question is just that I believe that a topic should be something that makes sense to you first before checking who did it. Because even if someone did it, the way you understand it or the way you write about that topic, because chances are whatever that we write on, someone have written something on it. Hence, we have to reference what we write. So, what I wanted to comment on is that one thing that I've realized with a topic myself is that, through inquisitive thinking, last year I was doing a research proposal in cybersecurity during COVID-19. Now, after that, I fell in love with cybersecurity. That now I'm doing ontology. My ontologies now are linked into cybersecurity as well. So now I believe what you just said, that when we study, it's not about getting promotions and stuff like that, but it's become part and parcel of what we do or how we live our lives. So with me, I fall in love with cyber security, and I've realized that all the things that I do currently, they link into cyber security, and it makes so much sense for me when I align things to that, because lately things are going digital and all that, and then cybersecurity becomes one of the aspects that we need to be aware of, so that we keep whatever that we do as safe as possible. Thank you, Doctor.
My question, I just wanted to ask, like, I'm doing the course HMPYC 80. Now they what I'm a bit confused. They say that you may not submit your previous research proposal from the module. You may not submit any of the research topic from the research report module, from any other honors module. Can Doc please tell me why? Or what are
Okay.
we to do?
Okay.
Thank you.
Mine was to respond to the first question posed around the same topic. I just wanted to amplify or add that it's mostly about your research. What gaps have you identified? And then the recommendations that you're going to have and solutions in your proposals that you're going to have that is different. And the changing environment, like, for instance, if you're perhaps in your IT industry or sphere, you'll find that there's so much that evolves in a space of 3 years. That is what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Actually, I want to answer on the that is being asked. The reason they say you cannot submit your previous work is that, my take is that after you've done your previous research proposals and stuff, you should be able to have new ideas around something else to ensure that whatever that you have learned from your previous modules, you have a better understanding on it, and to ensure that you can apply it on different aspects, not to stick into what you have done there. So I think that if now on what you are doing currently, it did not involve a research proposal, but then now going in depth of the research itself, you will continue. But for the fact that it covers what we have done last on another module, they want to ensure that whatever that you've done, you're able to apply it to the different aspects. Because when we then apply it in real life, we'll be applying it in most chances are we may not repeat on what we apply it on. So hence now they don't want you to submit what you have done on the previous module compared to this one. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that one. Okay, thank you very much. This last one, this last statement, and the question by the previous speaker, I'm not sure why they don't want you to do work that you have done. Maybe they will think that it is repetition, you're not learning anything out of it. But I don't know the specific objectives of that. And Mabaso, do you want to also respond to that one? Moses?
Well, thank you, Doc. I may have missed some of the issues that were discussed. However, I would like to find out, Doc. I did a research proposal on one of my assignments, and the second assignment that I'm supposed to deal with currently is the research report. So what I would like to find out is, since I selected a topic on my research proposal, when I go to the next step, which is the research report, do I have to change the topic, or do I continue with the very same topic that I submitted during my proposal? Thank you, Doc. That's my question.
Oh, okay. No. I think it is the same. You do the research report because you have implemented a research proposal is a research plan, and you give effect to it by implementing it. And to implement is to go to the field to collect data and produce. Then you produce a research report. So it is logically like that. When you've got a proposal, it's not the end, it's just the beginning. Then you finish it by going to the field and collecting data. I also want to make comment on the person who was asking that when you do research, go and look for topics that have been researched from the library. Later on, I want you to reserve this one. Later on, we'll look at sources of research topics.
I have a question.
Yes.
When I was developing my proposal, there were, let me say, a theory that I felt can help my work. That is Roy adaptation theory. But when I went into literature review, well, I submitted my proposal and the proposal was accepted and clearance was given.
Yes.
And then whilst I engaged in active literature review, I realized that there were other theory that could have best addressed my issue. So in that case, what do I do?
All right. You use them. I want to say this, that a proposal is a proposal. You understand the terminology proposal. I propose to do this. When you go to the field and you actually implement that proposal, you find that different things emerge, particularly in qualitative research. Things will emerge that you need to revise the proposal, which is chapter 1. You revise the earlier thinking, the earlier approach, and the earlier procedures. So if you find that there are more other relevant theories, do use them, because in that way, you're no longer going to use a theoretical framework. You are going to develop a conceptual framework, because you are allowed to use more than one theories. Now, you would remember that if you are using one theory, you are implementing a theory and you are testing it. But now, with a conceptual framework, you are developing you are developing a conceptual framework. But with theory, it already exists. Then you give effect to it. Now, when you use more than one theories, you are not going to implement all principles, because you're going to be overwhelmed and you will collect data that you will not be able to handle. You will select relevant principles from all those theories. If there are 3, you can take 2 principles from theory number 1 principle from theory number 2, and again two principles from theory number 3. And those are the ones that you will give effect to when you collect data and analyze data. So it is allowed to do more than one. And you're not forced to think only at the beginning, because in qualitative research, remember, your research process is emergent, and issues that emerge, they force you to build back, to reiterate. You go backwards, forth backward, like that. So there's nothing wrong in that approach.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Doc. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yes, we will deal, all what you're asking will be dealt with. There is a theoretical framework workshop at the end of the month, June. But somewhere during the course of July, we will also look at the conceptual framework. Then you can see the difference between the two. And what you're talking about now will become very, very clear, because we will unpack it in and out. You will ask questions and make contributions. And thank you. Let's just look at how we identify research topics. There is a stigma. We are labeled, particularly if we are beginning researchers. It is said that the selection of a problem is the most difficult step in the research process, because experience has taught us like that. I also has gone through difficult stages, like anybody else. Some graduate students spend many anxiety-ridden days and sleepless nights worrying about where they are going to find a problem to address in their thesis or dissertation. The first step in selecting a research topic is to identify a general subject area that is related to your area of expertise and is of particular interest to you. Now, there it is. Now we are told we need to generalize. This is what I told you will come across, because this author has just told us that you cannot address a broader topic, but it must be narrowed. But listen what they say here. If you want to identify your topic, first select identify a general subject. So broadly, that is a broad area that is related to an area of expertise and is of particular interest to you. That one, I think we might have the interest aspect we've addressed. Remember, you will be spending a great deal of time reading about and working with your chosen topic. Having one that interests you will help you to maintain focus during the months of conducting your study, particularly knowing that I'm pursuing my life objectives. Now, here now, we were just debating how we need to identify a topic, whether we need to go to the library, search all the thesis or whatever. Now here, I want you to remember those questions and please bring them up. If they're answered here, also indicate, but if they still are posed, also raise them up so that we can try to use this section to respond to those. You may be asking yourself, where do research topics or research questions, purposes, or problems come from? Do they come from the library? Do they come from my previous assignments? I'm just picking back on what you were asking. Where should I look to ferret out topics to study? The four main sources of research topics are the theories. And we're talking about the theory now. It can assist you in identifying a research topic. Personal experiences. I'm a conservator. I'm an environmentalist. I'm a former public servant. I stay in the Limpopo. So I've experienced life in the Limpopo. So that background, my worldview, assists me in identifying the research topic. The previous studies that can be replicated, colleagues, there we are now. Now, somebody was saying a lot of things have been studied and it's not a lot of areas that has not been studied, particularly if you go to your area of interest. You are there because you are a community of researchers with many more others. So yourselves and many more people in overseas, abroad in Africa, have been studying the same area, general area with you. So the likelihood is that a lot of it has been studied, but there's no way that you cannot twist it, because we proved it on Tuesday that even if you say my topic has already been studied, there is a way in which you can tweak it around. You can find a niche within it. There is a way that maybe even if it has been studied, it has made recommendations that you can pursue. Go and study this dimension, because we only studied this part. And I mentioned it last on Tuesday that if we have a topic has been studied in Europe or in America, in Japan, those countries are the developed world. What you can study in the developed countries would always differ from what you can find in the developing or the less development countries. Additional sources are discussed in the section on digital search tools for the 21st century and include, you see, these are the sources that I included here. I don't know what they mean because I don't even understand what a Facebook is, but some of you might be using these sites or this social media. RSS feeds, I don't know what that is. Twitter, I've heard about it. Blogs, I've heard about them, and I've participated in blogs and electronic mailing list. That one is simple because it's common sense. So it means all these are the areas where they provide areas where research topics can be generated. Now let's start with theories. These are the most meaningful problems. Sorry, the most meaningful problems are generally those derived from theories. This is what Guy and his friends are saying. A theory is an organized body of concepts, generalizations, and principles that can be investigated. Educationally, relevant theories such as the theory of learning and behavior can provide the inspiration for many research problems. At master's and doctoral level, your college might expect you to focus on aspects of a theory. But you see, I don't think the approach is that, no, I have not come across an approach where I've used a theory to inform my topic. No, my topic and literature review has assisted me to identify a theory that relates to the research topic. It is vice versa for me. But if there's an instance where somebody has decided, okay, this is a theory that says that, I want to investigate some of its principles, or I want to see if we can implement it, we can challenge it, or we can refine it. We can see if this is valid or it can yield good results. So I think that is how I feel I understand the implication. But otherwise, I have never started with a theory up front. It follows the identification of the research area. But personal experiences, another common way to identify research topics is to examine some of the questions we commonly ask ourselves about education, or about law, or about environment, or about agriculture, or about anything, technology, anything that is there. So we can have questions or challenges. Then we feel interested. Oh, I want to understand this aspect better. I want to understand an elephant better. So what can I do? Can I commission a study at D level? Can I commission a study at master's level or at honors level? So it means our experience can serve as good sources for the research topics. Questions may arise when we participate in class discussion, read articles in local newspapers and educational journals, or interact with others. Yes, particularly I like interacting with others. And I like when I'm studying things and say this one I want to investigate. So that is where some of the topics might originate. When we observe or read about schools, teachers, and programs, we can have questions about them and we can generate research questions based on that. But there are also studies that can be replicated. An additional source of research topic is previously published studies, many of which can be replicated. A replication is a repetition of a study using different subjects. So the other person has done these studies in Europe. So the subjects in Europe are not the subjects in South Africa. Oh, he was investigating women abuse. So I want to investigate men abuse. So I want to investigate child abuse to test that hypothesis. No single study, regardless of its focus or breadth, provides the certainty needed to assume that similar results occur in almost similar situations. Although in qualitative research, we believe that the results and the findings of other studies might be applicable in other situations. So it is not with certainty. And this is the reason why we can replicate this study to test what we have found in other areas. Is it necessarily the truth that it will be the same in other areas? If we use the same methodology, we ask the same questions, we apply or implement the same research plan. Progress through research usually comes from accumulated understanding and explanations, and replication is a tool to provide such accumulated information. Further motivation. In most cases, the method of a replication is not identical to the original study. So I want to see, I have used in-depth interviews in conducting that study, and the results stand like this. Can I then go and try and replicate this study, the same topic, in another area, then use a different methodology? Can I use focus group interviews instead of interviews or in-depth interviews? Will it yield the same results? Rather, some features of the original study are altered in an attempt to stretch or move beyond the original findings. For an example, the researcher may select a different sample of participants, we've already said that, or the researcher may examine a different kind of community or student, use a different questionnaire, that is the methodology, or apply a different method of data analysis. Yes. And I've just said that in all my studies, I did not use technology to analyze my data. I didn't use NVivo. NVivo maybe was not there in 1997 when I studied. But today, if we were to subject my findings, my results into NVivo, we want to see, will NVivo yield the same results as the results that came out when I analyzed my data manually? My head, my calculator, I was just using manual technology, which is my own brain, my own thinking without artificial intelligence. Now we've got artificial intelligence, which is an aid to data analysis. So we can try to use it to see if indeed the results will still be the same. But library researches, as somebody has asked about them, another commonly cited source for a research topic is a library research. Another commonly cited source for a research topic, repetition. Many students are encouraged to immerse themselves in the library and read voraciously in their areas of study until research topics emerge. And in this case, the person who asked the question here said somebody recommended that they look at the thesis, previous reports, if the topic that they are going to study is there. Or you can look at the previous reports, see if it can assist you to generate a new topic from what others have studied. I don't know, I've never done that one. But library is also seen as another potential. Although some research topics may emerge from library immersion, they are considerably fewer. Now here, listen to this one. And this is what you need to argue with me if you disagree with this gentleman. He is a guy and the friends. The use of library immersion are considerably fewer than those than the topics that emerge from theories. Or in other words, topics that emerge from theories, personal experiences, and previous studies are rated higher than the use of library researches in identifying a topic or in trying to find a study, a research topic. Now, you see, the library is downplayed here. Trying to identify a topic aimed at enormous possibilities in a library is akin to looking for a needle in a high stack. Sometimes we find it, but not very often. Further downplay, clearly, libraries are essential source of information in the research process, but the library is most useful to the researcher after a topic has been narrowed, and that is when he starts to do literature search on the very specific topic. So library, not mainly for finding research topics, but mainly for assisting to understand the research topic as part of the literature review. Then library sources can provide information to place the topic in perspective, as in the study background and study introduction. I will put it in a funnel shape, in the context of a funnel tube that we start globally, we come continentally, we come regionally, we come nationally, and we go site provincially, then we go site specific. Library puts the topic in those different perspectives, in specific geographical area, in specific focus of the research aspect that can be seen as belonging to that research topic. We delimit, we use literature review to delimit, actually to take other aspects that should not be studied and put them outside the research topic. Otherwise, our research process won't be finalized. Library sources can provide information to place the topic in perspective. They can reveal what researchers have already learned about the topic, because when we go to do literature research, we want to know, we want to understand what is known about the topic at the present moment when we are studying. And library research can suggest methods for carrying out study. And we have said your design section of the research project, that is where you deal with the methodology, the how to do it, and the step-and-step things, procedures that you will follow. You can only know and understand about it and write about it in chapter 1 or in chapter 3 when you have read, or through reading from literature which is available in library. But the electronic mailing list is also one of the areas where people can can generate research topics. Here, if you are a community of practice with colleagues, say for instance in the same discipline, or you've got a club, or you've got friends outside, or people that have got share the same interest, you can share topics, you can bounce with them, you can ask them, you can sometimes even share the outcomes of your reports. Or if there are bulletins, you can share. If there are conference papers, you can share. Then it helps those that want to embark on research to identify topics through these engagements. You can even bounce your work with the people that are there in the group. They can comment if you've got a chapter or you've got say for instance, it is a proposal or any other section of your work that you're writing about, and you want other people to advise you, you can share with them. So this is a mailing list, but a mailing list can also assist you in identifying a research topic, because the colleagues will tell you this has been researched, or it is under research now. A person in Germany is researching it now, or I am in Holland, or you are in South Africa in Gauteng, but in Holland I'm investigating this topic that you are trying to investigate. Please look for another one.
I just wanted to put it to you that in case whereby I've chosen a particular topic, because you have indicated that we need to guard against, because you'll find that there are several students or scholars who have written on that particular topic. So my question is, what are the disadvantages? I'm looking at the so-called, I'm not sure whether I'm correct, because immediately after having finished the research itself, I will have to place it on, is it Turnitin or what?
Yes, Turnitin, yes.
Yes. And should it happen that I discover that several students or scholars have written on that particular topic, don't you think that it might have an impact when I place it on that Turnitin in terms of that it might have negative effect, because majority of students have written on that particular topic. I don't know whether you get it.
No, I do.
No.
I do.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. Hold it there. Other people will have to come in, and we want to hear their views.
Thank you, Prof. I've actually ran into the same dilemma. So I'm a D student. I've actually thought I've narrowed down my topic to a certain extent.
Yes.
But because I've been attending a lot of conferences lately,
yes,
and I'm in the IT space, so I do realize the effects of AI and cybersecurity and stuff, which now makes me feel that I might need to change the topic or align my topic to align to recent trends or what is current.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. People that are speaking, can you please try to respond to that one? If you can't respond to that one, I will then comment. But I want you to actually look at what they are saying, that their topic might have been researched, or they get trouble when they get it Turnitin.
Yeah, let me say I'm basically just sharing my 2 cents worth. I think the first guy asking about what happens with the topic and Turnitin and so forth. My view is that when you're embarking on this whole research journey, what will make you successful, or let me say, what will make you enjoy the journey is look at what attracts your attention. Look at what makes you curious, what makes you itch in terms of a particular problem. Because what I've seen, I'm on the sites. We tend to collaborate with other scholars, and you hear topics, and sometimes people that know that I'm also a master's student, they'll say, please, just look at my research, research proposal. I need, like a third opinion, a non-biased eye. And the unfortunate part is I see a lot of repetition. COVID happens. So far, I think I've had 4 people sharing their proposals, talking about the impact of ICT in their workplace due to COVID. A lot of things. And unfortunately, it's very repetitive. And then at the end of the day, you are almost not compelled, but you end up now, when you are doing a literature review, everything is so saturated that you can't find something brand new.
Yeah.
So my 2 cents worth is, really think hard, think out of the box, look at what really tickles you. If it means it's in the ICT space, but then you find that maybe with the transition of now having to focus on a Microsoft Teams, and then you find that you have those people that are BBTs, born before technology, and they are
like
battling.
me. I'm a BBT. Marvel.
Yes.
Are you talking about me here?
No, it's a class effect.
Okay.
I'm a BBT as well, Dr. Korombi, but because I'm very, very curious. When I don't want to say when I'm bored, but when yeah, I've got a bit of a hyperactivity issue. So sometimes I'll just be, So my 2 cents worth is, ladies and gentlemen, don't sway with the conventional. Go the opposite way against the river flow. And I've also seen there was somebody that I was actually advising, an honor student. I'm mentoring with the student support unit, and I even asked, why doesn't she maybe do an action research, because sometimes you might find that if you're part and parcel of that, and then you start implementing something else, like let's say the BBT, and then you start offering lessons, or showing them how to log into Microsoft, and then now you start evaluating that impact, how they are improving. That's research. So
Yes.
yeah, that's me, guys. I'm not an expert. I'm still a master's student. I'm addicted to attending all these workshops. I learn a lot. I also impart the little knowledge that I do. Don't stick to what everybody's doing. Just look at what makes you itch, what makes you so preoccupied that like you want to find out the why and what's happening. Yeah, that's my contribution. Thank you.
Going to give the answer to the question that was asked. I'm just going to give indication to Nomhle on the topic of the COVID. I think with the computing honors, we've been limited to one topic as a group, which maybe might be the reason of why she's seeing that COVID title coming across to her as many times as maybe the people who are asking for help from her. We've just been limited to one topic, so we are all having one similar topic that we are working on. I think that could be the reason why it's coming more often in her face.
Sure.
Yes, bro. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Just to add something to what Samantha said, I think what she said is very, very important. If you find a topic that really tickles you, you are ready to go through anything to make sure that you come out with the logical conclusion of it. For instance, at my master's level, I school in Ghana. I had a terrible experience, and that was the experience that informed the topic selection for my PhD. And I've been doing well with it. It's not been that smooth because at the end of the day, I need to get a contingent ethical clearance from in my school, University of South Africa. But even getting ethical, clearance in Ghana was a very difficult thing. But because the study has to do with my experience, and I wanted to see it on a large scale. I was so much committed, and I read as much as I could to put it into perspective. So I think I'm very happy to hear Samantha giving that ideal about choosing a topic or narrowing down the topic, to suit what you want to discover. So thank you very much for that.
In addition to what my prior colleagues have said as well, I just want to add is that maybe you can also tweak your topic and make it around the 10 catalytic, yes, I hope I got it right, niche areas that UNISA is actually focusing on. You can always use AI in order to help you craft your topic, even though you what tickles you. You can always craft it along what you want to research on. Thank you, colleagues.
You know, for me, my 2 cents on the topic, I would say the topic, because the topic that I proposed, it went well and it's the one that I'm going to use. One doctor said to me, the topic is the problem that you always faced. And while you were looking and searching for answers, you couldn't find. But the
Aha.
space matters gives you the topic so that you can address those issues. So
Yes.
that's where I managed to get the topic, and then it went well, and is the topic that they have accepted me with, and that I must start now, be busy now with it. Thank you.
The topic is the problem. Yeah, we said it in an earlier slide. Beautiful. I think the nail on the head.
Doc, I just wanted to find out about the research problem. Say, for instance, like we on a topic of, let's say, racism. Do we ask the question like, in the research problem, racism is the research problem, and then the research will look at the way to stop racism. And then with the research question, Doc, so I was saying, like the way you describe the research problem, the research problem is racism. Then we ask the question, the research will look at the ways to stop racism.
Yes.
Then we ask the question, like in the research question, is there a way to stop the rise of racism? And then we look at the objectives of the study, like the study aims to find ways to stop the rise of racism.
Yes.
Is it correct, Doc?
Very, very, very correct. That's very good. And the sub questions must be crafted even to support that one. You can also, I don't want to be directive, investigate the existing policies or measures that are implemented in South Africa or internationally to stop racism. And then investigate the impact on racism on different cultures. And then
yes, thank you, Doc.
Mine is, I think, it's a very short one. I would like to understand the difference. In fact, when you are given an assignment and to say that you should choose from a specific research areas, then is it that the research area that you choose should appear the same as the research topic that you are going to research on? For a typical example, where are you given a research area to research the private security industry in ensuring safety? The alignment of my topic, in fact, I would like to understand, do I have to really discuss the role, as it's saying the role, or should I just base my topic on the private security, which is the area in which I'm investigating or researching on? Let me rephrase it.
Yes.
Maybe as you are saying that is not clear enough. I'm saying I've been given a task. My task is to choose one of the research areas, which is the role of the private security industry in ensuring safety. So my question is, the difference between a research area and the research topic. Can you clarify me on that one? The research area and the research topic.
Okay, the research topic is private security. That is the research area. Then within the context of private security, there might be a number of sub areas to investigate. Those sub areas are research topics, and as somebody has said earlier on, they come from the problems. Okay, private security. Okay, you can investigate the capacity of private security in ensuring law and order. You see now, it is in the area of private security. But then we zoomed into a specific one. We want to see if they've got capacity. Or, as you said, the contribution of private security in law and order in South Africa. Agree? There it is. So the difference is the other one is bigger than the other one, and within the same context, you can find small little legs or some small building blocks that build the bigger thing, the bigger picture of private security. Or you can just say the training of employees of training or whatever security. And I want us to look at how we narrow the research topic. For most qualitative researchers and some quantitative researchers and qualitative researchers, the general topic area must be narrowed to a more specific researchable area. So this aspect of a general research area remains, and that topics are found within the general area of interest. A topic that is too broad can lead to grief. First, a broad topic enlarges the task of reviewing the related literature. It's likely to result in many extra hours spent in the library because you're studying everything. But if you narrow, then you only specialize and you only study things that are relevant to the legal topic. If it is about security, okay, private security, okay, let's only study its skills. Does it not have? If it has skills, how does it contribute to the security in the country, to law and order? So we would have zoomed. Then we limit the hours of studies, we limit the areas of investigation by narrowing the topic. Second, broad topics complicate the organization of the literature review itself is very difficult because it is about everything. So everything, the research work becomes a jumbo mumble because it does not select. It's indiscriminate. Finally, and most important, a topic that is too broad tends to result in a study that is general, then doesn't even have an impact. It is difficult to carry out because you don't know who to interview and who sources of information, and difficult to interpret. You will have all those challenges. Conversely, a well-defined manageable problem results in a well-defined manageable study as well. Note that the appropriate time to narrow a topic differs for quantitative and qualitative approaches, because quantitative researchers typically requires that the researcher spells out a specific and manageable topic at the start of the research process. And here I use the statement deductive. You will remember that when we spoke about literature, we said quantitative researchers, they want their literature at the beginning of the study. So everything they want up front, because their principle is positivism that has got to promote a principle of objectivity. Thou shalt not interfere with the research process. Thou shalt not interfere with the research context or the research findings. Whereas in qualitative research, no, we don't have to have everything ready-made at the beginning, because our processes are emergent and they are context-specific, and they will listen to the respondents because they inform our studies. Conversely, this is why it is said, conversely, for most qualitative research, the researcher often enters the research setting with only a general topic in mind. I have a general topic in mind. So it will become clear and it will be refined, and its narrowing would be finalized when I conduct studies, when I've been informed by the study context and the respondents. Following observation over a period of time, the qualitative researcher formulates a narrower research topic. You see, it's an emphasis. For ideas on narrowing your topic, you may begin by talking to your faculty advisors and to specialists in your area to solicit specific suggestions for the study. You may also want to read sources that provide overviews of the status of the research in your topic area, and search through handbooks that contain many chapters focused on research in a particular area. It may be called something that can be called next step studies, or those that need to be conducted. Colleagues, there was a challenge, a question that I think maybe I did not make comment on. The one that was saying my topic has already been researched. I don't know how that happens, but I also feel challenged if in a module the whole class is subjected to one topic. Maybe it is a way in which they simplify learning, but this is what exhausts study topics. So none of what they do will be published or can contribute to the body of knowledge, because it is tautology, all of it. But the challenge of it having been researched, maybe I don't know if it is because insufficient analysis or research was done before the topic. You know, if you go into the web, you go to all the search engines and enter keywords or enter your research topic, the likelihood is you would be more or less 80% sure that it has not been researched, or it might be a repetition. I think let's do due diligence and let's use every avenue, even the study leaders. Study leaders must also advise, because they've been there for a longer time than some of us who are doing studies for the first time. In narrowing your topic, you should select an aspect of the general problem area that is related to your area of expertise. Thereafter, you may generate many specific problems. Now, I must make an example here. I am a conservator, and I've made an example of what I did, the role of vendor culture. That's why I say, for an example, in the general research area of culture and nature conservation, one can ask the following questions. Does the vendor culture contribute to the conservation of the natural environment? It's one option. The other one might be, in which way does the Sepedi culture promote the conservation of the natural environment? That is one way of asking it. The other, third way, what is the contribution of this Isiswati culture in the conservation of the natural resources? Turning to these questions, if you turn them around, these can result into researchable research topics. Apart from saying that they might have already been researched. So we take this and we go to search engines, we punch them there, we instruct the engine to indicate if they will appear as they are. And if we find they're not researched, then we're continuing. With the understanding that our topics, whether we have them professionally or we have them generally, we will still refine them when we research. The good thing about qualitative research is, even if you are saying it might have been researched, or you don't know if it is said or not, when you collect data in your area, the context is always different. Remember, I've said that if somebody has conducted the same study in Europe, you can replicate it in South Africa, and the likelihood is you are not going to find the same results because the context is different. I said the rich countries and the poor countries don't experience the same thing economically, socially, otherwise. And the fact that we are located in the south, we don't know, the temperatures are so different, the rainfall is so different. You see now, that is what makes the context different, and that is what makes your area of study a niche, just because of the study or location. In your efforts to sufficiently delineate a problem, however, be careful not to get carried away, because a problem that is too narrow is just as bad as the problem that is too broad. They're not saying that you must investigate little things like needle. They are saying narrow it to an acceptable level. I don't know what is acceptable, and I don't know what is too narrow, but we have to be cautious of that. A study on the effectiveness of the pre-class reminders in reducing instances of no, I don't want to use this example that I've deleted. Now here is an example of narrowing a research topic from a geographic perspective. Say, for instance, I want to have the global emphasis, the perspective. I want to research global emphasis on women and girl child empowerment versus man and boy child development. You see now, if I word my topic like that, it means that I will collect data in Europe, in USA, in India, in South Africa, in Ghana, in everywhere. And this meant a global data collection, which is very ponderous, very, very difficult. But I can zoom down. I can still maintain that I want to gather the global emphasis, but look at the approach. And this is what is going to determine how I will collect data and how I design my studies. I say global emphasis on women and girl child empowerment versus men and boy child development. Then I say a case study of the 5 continental embassies represented in South Africa. So in other words, I'm going to South Africa to only collect data. And from the embassies, these embassies have got a, although they've got a South African footprint, they have got, they originated globally outside South Africa. So if I limit my studies and say the perspective will only look at them, then I will get a bit of how the global community says, but I will only concentrate on the selected embassies. And you know what I did? I went to the map today to see how my geographical studies can be delineated. Because I could say, okay, I will only get these embassies in Pretoria, or if the embassies that are in South Africa are all located in Pretoria, then it means my study area is only Pretoria. But it captures the world view, the global view. And do you know what I did? Just look at what I have here. The map that you see there is the map of Pretoria. And if you see the red dots with a roof on top of them, is the only area where the embassies and the consulate of the world are concentrated in South Africa. So if I can delineate this area, you might find that it's a very small geographical area, but I can finalize my studies in here. Because here you've got the Pakistan High Commission, you've got the Cyprus High Commission, you've got the Netherlands, the German, the Embassy of Egypt, you've got Embassy of Portugal in Pretoria, you've got all the embassies here of the global. I don't know if they are all only concentrated in Gauteng or in Pretoria. But let us just read here at the heading. The heading says the embassy pages for Pretoria list of embassies. Okay, high commissions and consulates in Pretoria, South Africa. There are currently 138 foreign representation in Pretoria. And if I'm doing a sample here, for an example, if I'm using focus groups and I decide I will only have 5 focus groups, then it means I'm going to identify only 5 embassies. Then I do them per continent. I say, okay, 1 in the Western continent, 1 in the Eastern continent, 1 in the Northern, 1 in the Southern. Or I go continent by continent. You see, that is a way of delimiting your studies in terms of defining the boundaries where the studies is going to be. So this can help you in your topic. That my topic, I'm not going to Bangladesh, I'm not going to Germany. My German is in South Africa. Then my topic is only looking into South Africa, but I will get the global perspective of my topic. That is one way of delimiting your studies. But what are the characteristics of good research topics? Selecting a good topic is well worth the time and effort. As mentioned previously, there is no shortage of significant educational problems that need to be studied. There is really no excuse for selecting a thread or overly narrow problem. Besides, it is generally to your advantage to select. You see, this is one benefit. A good characteristic is that it should be to your advantage to select a worthwhile problem, because you will certainly get a great deal more out of it, professionally and academically, and socially, because I'm a social being, or even economically. If the subsequent study is well conducted and reported, not only will you make a contribution to the existing knowledge base, but also you may find your work published in a professional journal, which is what most of us aspire. And for the PhDs, it's a requirement that you must publish. I don't know whether it is 1 or 2, but you must also do conference presentations, maybe 1 internationally and 2 nationally, depending on the institution. Characteristics continues. The potential personal benefit to be derived from publication includes increased professional status and job opportunities, not to mention the tremendous self-satisfaction. We have said this in previous workshops. Working with an interesting topic helps a researcher stay motivated during the months of the study. And if it is not a good topic, I don't want even to study. I run away from books. But if it is interesting and it is in my heart, I can't even sleep. When I sleep, I think about it, then it forces me to wake up and sit on the computer. That is the advantage of getting a good one. So this is a good characteristic. Being interesting, however, is only one characteristic of a good research topic. The second one is the research topic, by definition, is an issue in need of investigation. So it follows that a fundamental characteristic of a good research topic is that it is researchable. So it must also assist us it must contribute to addressing world problems that we have, social, environmental, and economic problems. We have said that basic research, although cannot solve problems presently, it can solve problems in the future. But we have said applied research is implemented to address a specific problem at hand. So the research topic is geared towards those two types of studies. Then a researchable topic is one that can be investigated through collecting and analyzing data. Effect. Problems dealing with philosophical or ethical issues are not researchable, and research can assess how people feel about such issues, but it cannot solve it, or it cannot solve them. In education, many issues make great topics for debate, such as should prayers be allowed in schools? Whether we research on it, this is it's not researchable. Sorry, this is not researchable. There is no way to resolve these issues through collecting and analyzing data. Generally, topics or questions that contain the word should cannot be answered by research of any kind, because ultimately they are matters of opinion. Then, in other words, this narration is indicating that research would not contribute to theory or to practice, because it cannot even answer those questions, because these might be ethical issues, might be issues of opinion, so they are not worth investigated. So we avoid topics that are geared towards that. However, a slight wording change can turn an unresearchable topic into a researchable one. The third characteristic is that it has theoretical or practical significance. We have been talking about the theory, and I've made a reference to application, that we must be able to apply your research outcomes into solving world problems, social, economic, and environmental. People's definition of significant vary, but a general rule of thumb is that a significant study is one that contributes to some way to the improvement of understanding of educational theory or practice. Is an emphasis also. A fourth characteristic of a good topic is that the research is ethical. It should, in that it must not potentially harm the research participants, and harm encompasses not only physical danger but emotional danger as well. You have read about this, So if the topic is going to have to impact negatively on the research participants, then that is not a good research topic. It does not qualify to be researched, because we must respect the respondents. A fifth one is that the topic is manageable for you. Choosing a topic that is interesting, but you don't have expertise to do it, it won't help you. And this is the reason why I put here in red, most employed researchers have more commitments and less time. Will you have the time to go and collect data? Or do you have the money? Have you been sponsors? Do you have a bursary to go and conduct research? If it is, if your research would require an extensive investigations that require you to access some technology that for which you have to pay. So these are some of the aspects that you must take into account if you're identifying a topic. Will I be able to execute the research project? Do I have the capacity, or do I have the skill? Do you know? Do you have the cap? Are you skilled in conducting this research? Can you go to the field and collect data? Or can you use this technology to do data analysis? Or will you ask some other people to do it for you? So all these things are taken into account. So this is the fifth characteristic of a good topic or good topics. Now, how do we state the research topic? How do we state research topics? After you have selected and narrowed your research topic, you should draft a written statement of the topic. The way in which a topic is stated varies according to the type of research undertaken and the preference of the researcher. But I think maybe the university, the department, or the discipline under which you fall might have specific preferences. Then they can dictate to you or provide guidelines that this is how you need to give effect to the topic, or the topic should be written in this manner or in these sections. We'll look at that at a later stage. As with other parts of the research process, the research differs somewhat for quantitative and qualitative studies, and you will be able to see that one. Now, let's look at the quantitative process, how the topic should be stated. And we do it because we know that we want to contrast it with what happens in qualitative research. We don't do it because I want to shed more light on it because I'm not very good on it, but it is a good example. For a quantitative study, a well-written topic statement generally describes the variables of interest, the specific relations amongst those variables, and ideally important characteristics of the participants. Oh, this is what the quantitative researchers do. You see, the difference between the quantitative guys and us, the qualitative gurus, the people that do the qualitative research, is that quantitative researchers always put their aspects up front. And this is the reason why in your heading, you might find that variables are referred to. The relationships between the variables is also referred to. And even when you go to the hypothesis, they can propose specific relationships in terms of the hypothesis, which they have to test. So that is not what qualitative researchers do. An example of that on how to place a research topic in quantitative studies is that the topic to be investigated, this is an example, the topic to be investigated in this study is the effect of positive reinforcement on the quality of 10th graders English composition. So they want to show you where variables are, the dependent and the independent variable and those participants that are affected. And we can identify variables here. It is clear that the variables in this study are positive reinforcement and quality of English composition. The other one is independent, the other one dependent. And let me not go there. But the participants will be the 10th grades. You see, they show that there are relationships between the two variables and the participant affected are there identified. So this might happen when you're stating your topic just upfront at the beginning. Now, but in qualitative research, at this point in the research process, qualitative research topics often are stated in more general language, you see, not specific. Now, in quantitative research, when we indicate the variables, already we are specific because those variables are going to be the ones to be investigated and their relationships be determined. And then the results will tell if they confirm the specific hypothesis or it is not confirmed. The qualitative researcher needs to spend time in the research context for the focus of the study to emerge, which is inductive. Remember, the qualitative researcher usually is much more attuned to the specifics of the context in which the study takes place than the quantitative researcher. So it means the context might force me to change or to refine my research topic. Now, look, we were saying that we might find challenges that our topics have been researched. And I have emphasized earlier on that if you are in a different context, the likelihood is no. It can't be exactly that. Because when you go there, unless you ignore and you disregard the emergence information that inform you of the entire study so that you can tweak back the entire value chain to ensure that it speaks to the research topic and that the research topic is actually aligned with the study context as well as the respondents. You take that into account, you will never go wrong with the research topic. Qualitative topic statements eventually narrow as the researcher learns more about the research context and its inhabitants, and these most precise statements appear in the research report. You see now, The more precise statements about the research topic will be there in your research report. Why? Because when you write, you put down the research report, you have already collected data, and data is already indicated or dictated and advised you how you need to narrow the topic. That is why you shouldn't be despaired thinking that a little bit broader topic which is well narrowed would not get better when you go down collecting data when you go towards the end of the research report, because that is where the gist of the information comes that supports the research topic or assists you to refine it. You see now, so don't fear that your research topic has been researched by anybody, because yours is only belonging to you and is only belonging to the area where data is collected and where a particular type of communities or respondents are actually giving you information. So your research topic is yours. Remember, there's going to be a relationship between research questions and the research topic. Qualitative research questions, colleagues. In a qualitative study, inquirers state research questions, not objectives. And I've said this on Tuesday, that is, specific goals for the research or hypothesis are not there. And we don't have predictions that involve variables and statistical tests as in quantitative research. Now, these research questions assume two forms. They are, one, a central question, and two, associated sub questions. I was having a meeting yesterday with one of the researchers, and from this group in particular, that we dealt with a central question and we dealt with sub questions, and we noted that the central question is actually supported by the research, the sub questions, and we noted that the central question is actually supportive of the research topic. It is subsequent and gives effect to the research topic. Now, here are the guidelines, colleagues, of how we need to deal with the research questions. Ask 1 or 2 central research questions, because you have heard there is a central question and there are associated sub questions. Now, ask 1 or 2 central research questions. Now, the central question is a broad question that asks for an exploration of the central phenomenon or concept in a study. You see, in qualitative research, we are using this terminology: broad research topic, broad research area, broad research question. Why? Because we allow flexibility. We allowed the generation of information that feeds into the earlier assumptions. It feeds into the earlier research topic, or feeds earlier into the broader question. The inquirer poses this question consistent with the emerging methodology of qualitative research as a general issue, so as to not limit the views of the participants. Did you get it? This question, the way it's posed, is it postulates an open-ended opportunity that should be awarded to people that are going to give information as generated through questioning. So it would allow the views of the participants to go in there. So later on, you will see that keywords are very central to wording your research questions and your sub questions, because the way you word it is either that you're going to limit or you're going to allow your participants to play a bigger role in providing the necessary information to your research project. To arrive at this question, ask, what is the broadest question that I can ask in the study? When you want to craft a broader question enough sufficiently. Beginning researchers trained in quantitative research might struggle with this approach because they are accustomed to reverse thinking. This is in quantitative research. This central question, you see, quantitative researchers if they are beginners, they narrow the quantitative study to specific narrow questions or hypotheses based on the few variables. And this is at the beginning, as we've said, and this is not what we want to do if we are qualitative students. In qualitative research, the intent is to explore the general complex set of factors. You see, general complex set of factors surrounding the central phenomenon and present the broad, varied perspectives of meanings that participants hold. Right? Participants are not channeled, as in quantitative research, that always limit your responses to an extent that they even ask you closed-ended questions. Here, we don't need closed-ended questions if we are qualitative students. We need open-ended questions so that the broad spectrum of responses are available and the experiences or the contribution of the people that are there that are going to provide information is acknowledged and is contributing to your study. And this only happens if our asking of questions is correct. So we are advised to be general, to be generic, and to be broad enough. And here, the guidelines will follow. After these slides are just an example of what I've done and what some of the presenting some of the ways procedures that are followed. This is the table of content without research objectives to show you that in qualitative research, one day I did miss the objectives. They were thrown away because here literature is saying that they belong to quantitative research. But I don't dispute that in UNISA, I did engage with researchers who do have both who do have research questions and the research objectives. So that is dependent on the institution. But here, my example was there was no objectives. It was the research questions only. And they were broad. The central one was very broad. And here is one of the central questions that I asked in the study in order to continue. And you will also see the sub-questions that were generated to support it. And the studies was on studies on the catchment CMAs in South Africa, the establishment of catchment management agencies, and organizational design perspective. So after the statement of a problem at the end, at the bottom, I wrote this. With the discussion so far at hand, the following general research question can be asked. And here, listen to it. Look at the keywords, colleagues, and do tell me when I pause here if this was too specific, because I argue that it is generic and it is for purposes of opening up for participants to contribute to my studies. The question reads like this. Can an analysis and implementation of the principles of organizational studies and organizational design assist catchment management agencies and their chief executive officers to manage their respective water management areas more effectively so that a better service can be rendered to water users? That is how broad it is. So let's bear it in mind. If you want me to revisit when we discuss, I'll bring it back. Then we come to sub-questions. We have got a broad one now. Now, let's look at how sub-questions will look like. And later on, I've got a snapshot of them here, and we will compare them with the broad questions if they relate, if the other one is broad enough, and if the other ones would be specific enough. And the guideline is ask no more than 5. You see, fewer. You ask fewer questions, but no more than 5 to 7 sub-questions in addition to your central questions. So these are sub-questions that we're talking about now. Several sub-questions follow each general central question. They narrow the focus of the study, but leave open the questioning. The questioning is going to be open-ended so that a contribution can be made from a general perspective. But these are narrow because they need to operationalize or to give effect to the broader question. Now, the sub-questions in turn become specific. There are specific questions used during interviews or in observing or when looking at documents. You know what? You will see later on when we deal with the data analysis. You will use these questions to go and create. Actually, even when you collect data, this is what they refer to here now. You will see the design of your interview guide, the data collection instrument borrows from these sub-questions because they themselves are borrowed from a generic question. And that generic question which I've mentioned gives effect to a research topic, colleagues. because today the topic is about the research topic. So how do we give effect to the research topic? We craft the research question correctly, which is followed by the relevant sub-questions, and which they themselves inform your data collection instrument. That data collection instrument is where you've got specific questions, open-ended questions that are collecting data from the informant. And in doing that, you are not at tangent with your research topic. Now, let's continue with these sub-questions. In developing an interview protocol or a guide, the researcher might ask an icebreaker question at the beginning, for an example, followed by 5 or so sub-questions in the study. The interview would then end with an additional wrap-up or summary question, or by asking, who should I tend to or learn more about this topic? No, this is just an indication how you can actually craft your interview guide or your interview protocol. But the key concept is here is that we narrow and our sub questions do become specific than the generic research question. And here are the specific questions for that question that I read for you for the establishment of catchment management agencies in South Africa and organizational design perspective. So the question, let me just read it for you again, and then you can then compare it with what I'm going to read now. Now it reads, can an analysis and implementation of the principles of organizational studies and organizational design assist CMAs and their CEOs to manage their respective water management areas more effectively so that a better service can be rendered to water users? Now, the sub questions to support that one are, on which theoretical principles is the phenomenon organizational design founded within the context of organizational studies? And colleagues, catchment management agencies are organizations. That is why I said colon and organizational design perspective as the end tail of stating the research topic. So then the first of these sub questions then make reference to organizational studies, because the studies is about organization. And the second one says, what is the history of establishment of catchment management agencies in South Africa, and which legislation lay the foundation of water management? Now, CMAs, catchment management agencies, are the ones which I said I'm going to study in the topic. You see, now we are narrowing, but we're still giving effect to the very broad question that was there from the beginning. What is the current situation of the CMAs and their CEOs in South Africa? And still about CMAs and CEOs have been referred to earlier in another in a broader research question. And the last one is, how can the organizational structure of the CMAs be redesigned based on the theoretical principles, you see, again, and the findings of the empirical study to assist CEOs to manage their organizations more effectively? These questions narrow, number one, the focus of the study. Number two, they leave open the questioning so that we can allow respondents to fill in the gap and provide more insight into what we are studying than us limiting them to specifics, what we want to hear. So we are generous here. Only the first one only focuses on principles of organizational design. I've already said that one. The second one focuses on history of the CMAs. I've said that one. The third one focuses on the current status of the CMA, and the last one focuses on the future of the CMA structure. So everything gives effect to the research question that we had on top there. Relate, now as a continuation of this guide, relate the central question to the specific qualitative strategy of the inquiry. And here, I do not want to go on these slides. I've got better slides earlier on. Okay. Begin the research questions with the words what or how to convey an open and imaging design, because we need things that would image as we go down towards the end of the study. As we execute our research in all stages, we want things to image. So the questioning is very, very important. And this is done by using keywords. You see, the word why often implies that the researcher is trying to explain why something occurs. And this suggests to us probable causes and effect thinking that we associate with quantitative. So it limits the thinking. But let's look at what good words should be used. We've already been told if we say the what and the how, maybe that is open and it allows us to give them an opportunity to contribute. Focus on a single phenomenon or concept. As a study develops over time, factors will emerge that may influence this single phenomenon, but being a study with a single focus to explore in great detail. We often ask, what is the one single concept that you want to explore? You only exploring one aspect. So even in your questioning, don't be double barrel. You know, the other people don't know. Use the word and to investigate the role of catchment management agencies and the role of higher learning institutions. Now you are mixing things. This is tautology. Sorry, it's not tautology. Actually, it's being double barrel in that you are bringing a question that a person can choose to answer either higher institution of learning or CMAs or catchment management agencies. So that is not needed. If you are investigating universities or higher institution of learning, investigate them alone. Leave catchment management agencies alone, because I will choose when I'm a respondent to answer to one of those. Then you miss and you won't even be able to analyze the data. That is just an advice. Associated questions to organizational studies of catchment management in South Africa. Here, I just want to indicate that Cresswell did not refer to the word which, but it also is not limiting, because on sub question number 1, I used the statement which, whereas the recommendation is use the word what or how, so that it is open for interpretation. People can give you in the way they can respond in the way that they want. But also the word which does not appear to be limiting. The word what does not limit as it is in the second research sub question. It says, what is the history? Then it is not limiting. We've been advised we can use it. And here in the third, sorry, in the fourth one, the word how also is showing imaging design. It's talking to the imaging design. So how is it unfolding? Then people can fill in and will provide you what you require to know, so that it helps you getting what you get.
I have only one question, Prof. I just want to know, when you're doing the research, is it allowed to only use like technology as your sources, e.g., internet, books, journals only, and not to go out there and collect data, maybe by interviewing some subjects out there? Thank you.
Then we only do content analysis on the resources that are there, except collecting data outside.
Hi, Dr. Korom. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, looking at collecting data, that's now you've gone beyond, because there's also ethical considerations that need to be done. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a deviation. So, yeah, for now, I think the person that's asking the question, they need to focus on doing the sorting out the research questions, doing the literature review before going beyond and asking the participants.
Yes, Prof. Yes, my question is, now I'm on the research.
Oh, wait.
The research itself. Yes.
Oh, is it a difficult thing? Is it a different comment, or it is on what was asked?
In the same one, I was just
okay.
like trying. I was trying to clarify to my colleague. Maybe she misunderstood my question. When I'm doing the research, as you put it very well and short and concise, Prof. That I'm doing the research. I don't go out to collect data from interviewing people. I just depend entirely on the resources that are already there, which are the books, internet, and journals. That's the question.
Okay.
Sounds like a systematic review.
Yes, you see,
Yeah.
there is something which is called document research or document analysis. I presented a workshop on that last year. I think it was saying you can make research on documents only without going to research participants as human beings. I think it is there. I will verify, but I will still present a workshop on that one. But I think it is possible.
Correct. Correct,
For
sir.
now,
It is
I
there.
think I'm convinced.
It is there. It
Okay.
is there.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kurumbi. I just wanted to get, sorry, first, I've just joined in a bit late and I was struggling to connect. So in terms of what struck me was when you were talking about the aspect of ethical question.
Yes.
And saying it's not a researchable topic. When the question starts asking issues that have got ethical aspects to it. My question is, for example, when you then come to describing the research, the central research questions in qualitative research, you then look at going broad. And for me, it also now takes me back to the issue of saying ethical questions fall into qualitative research if I'm not making a mistake. So I wanted to clarify that explanation that you gave with regard to ethical research questions having a problem of not being researchable. Can you maybe read to me on that?
All right. There was an example that I actually cited there. Or unless if there's somebody who wants to try it before I can make a comment.
Remember, the aim of the research is that we would want to make a contribution. And what Prof has indicated, which is something that also struck me, was that, and he made an example of allowing praying in school, to say, if you make a research around that, and you know that it's based on sentiments and might not necessarily make a difference, because whether you research about it, you make a recommendation, it's not necessarily going to change prayer in schools.
The ethics aspect, colleagues, remember the issue of praying is an aspect of value. That's why they refer to it as an ethic. There are people who value praying. Others don't value it. Ethically, others are Christians, others are not Christians. So the argument here is, if we research that thing, what contribution will we make? Will we stop people from praying, or will we force people to start praying? Now, then they're saying, although you try to research that one, you can't solve an ethical problem. You can't make a good contribution. You can investigate and find how many people pray, but you cannot change their ethics, their belief system, because they are Christianity. They are Christians. Others are Muslims. Others are atheists. What is that? Atheists, people that are not believing in anything. So that yes. How do you pronounce it?
Atheists.
Atheists. Aha. Those. So this is the argument that is presented by the author here. So that is what I can also comment on. That is how I can comment. But we can still investigate it further and still come and debate about it.
Just on that point, Prof, I just want to check. You don't have to go into it if it's not necessary. There is a concept of complex or wicked problems.
Yes.
Is it not coming into this space when, for example, if you use exactly the example that you use of prayer, doesn't it fall under researching complex or wicked problems?
Yeah, maybe I don't know how the complex and wicked are defined, but yeah, but maybe I don't. Maybe you might be correct. I'm not sure.
Okay.
but we all of us can agree it would be difficult to research if we cannot say that less contribution will come to that, either contribution to the theory or to the practice. The workshop was highly attended. Thank you very much for the contribution.